All right, good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started here. Welcome to the first third Thursday at 3 with CDBG of 2024. We're a little bit of a short staff today, so I'll be running the PowerPoint. Andrew Heyman, the director, Tim Parks, who's in charge of our economic development program. He's going to be presenting today about our new economic development program that we will be promoting in 2024. Hiding behind me is Sandy Motow, our administrative assistant who helps us with a lot of other things. We're a little bit short-staffed today because people are out at training, so it's just going to be the three of us. We are, just as a reminder, we'll be hosting third Thursdays every month, third Thursday at 3 starting today. Next month, we'll probably focus on application workshop kind of stuff, application support for the annual competition round. This meeting is being recorded, so if you have to miss anything, you'll be able to access it later. I'm going to share the screen now, so we can start our PowerPoint.
Yeah, hit the share button still.
Yeah, okay. Got it.
Perfect.
Okay. So
Those people in chat.
What do I do? Oh, yes. Sorry.
Push that share button too. I'm not sure if it's sharing or yeah.
There we go.
See the red.
Okay.
Oh, that's better.
All right. I think we're sharing the screen. Please let us know if you can't see the screen. Okay. Before Tim, so for third Thursday today, I just want to give a few CDBG updates, and then Tim's going to talk about the economic development program. So very quickly, CDBG roadshows start next week. Most people I've seen names who have popped up have been registered already. Next week, we will be in Beloit with North Central RPC, and on the 24th, we will be in Chanute with Southeast Kansas. So please get registered. Email us if you have any questions or issues signing up. Second, the CDBG website is officially updated with 2024 programs. Tim and I just went through with one of our IT specialists to make final corrections. So after this third Thursday, please feel free to go to the CDBG website, review the new guidelines for the 2024 programs, reach out to us if you have any questions. Again, we just launched these on the website today. If you see any inconsistencies or have any issues or questions, please let us know as soon as possible so we can get it updated. But I know everyone's been waiting for that. So please, after this, go to the CDBG website, check out the new guidelines. A couple of housekeeping things. If you have a CDR contract, if you were awarded a CDR contract, please have those signed contracts submitted to your project manager by February 2nd. If you received in a contract or an award last year, if you're a community that received an award last year, please submit your signed Build America, Buy America amendments as well by Groundhog Day or February 2nd. So with that, those are the only two announcements I really have, and I will pass it along to Tim now.
Grab that keyboard and that. That's the
Sorry.
way I'm advanced.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon. As Andrew had said, we're gonna highlight our economic development program. It's something we're really promoting this year. We want to make sure that folks are aware of what's available out there, how the program works. We really haven't funded a economic development program since 2019. So it's been a while for us, and I'm sure it's been a while for you guys. So let's dive in. Okay.
Again.
Okay, I went wrong way. All right, there we go. All right, so the objective here is to basically get some money into the local communities, cities or counties to allow them to basically expand their economic opportunities within that community, right? They can solicit and bring in new businesses. They can help retain businesses that are there existing. We want to take this federal money that comes through the state and get it down to that local level so that they can take care of things that they know best of. With our funding, though, each project must result in a private sector job creation or retention. talk more about that. And then again, at least 51% of those jobs must be held by low and moderate income persons. I know my audience. It's not working fine.
Again, it's probably me.
Okay. So now am I person, I think everybody on the call probably knows, but just in case. It means that an individual's family income is no greater than 80% of the area median income based on family size for the county in which they live. So that's going to be the thing we're going to work with with LMI moving forward. And just in case you haven't seen this, this is just a pick Hodgman County as an example. The lower row of low 80% income limits there, one person at 49,250 across the board. You can see based on family size, that is the maximum amount of income a family could have to qualify for our programs. And that link down below will take you to it if you have any interest in looking at that yourself. All right, so applicants. Well, with CDBG, we always have to fund either cities or counties, so that unit of general local government. As always, we do not fund those entitlement communities that receive money directly from HUD, the larger cities they're listed. And this is once you receive the money as a city or a county, you can only assist for-profit businesses with this funds, and that will be in the form of a loan product.
Yeah, one thing different from this program than to the other CDBG programs is economic development is a loan program. The other CDBG programs are grant programs. So that's one of the big differences here.
It's technically a grant to the city or county, and then from there, it's a loan to the assisted businesses that you choose. So 2024, we have an allocation for $2 million. The maximum grant amount is $750,000. And we do, as usual with our programs, require a local match at 50%. These projects we intend this funding to be kind of gap financing. So we anticipate this being CDBG being one piece of the pie. So meeting that local match typically is not a problem for these types of projects. So the funding availability at that maximum $750,000 is based on the number of jobs created or retained by the project. So to say that another way, we cap our CDBG investment at $35,000 per job created or retained. And to be eligible to receive that full $750,000, the business that you assist would have to create or retain at least 21.4 jobs. It can certainly be more, but that's the minimum to be able to calculate. And then, as we probably said a lot, our application portal will be opening January 29th of 24, and it's on our CDBG website at Commerce. So take a look at that when that opens up and get your applications in.
And so this will be a rolling round that's available from January 29th all the way through the end of the year, essentially.
Or till funds are expended, which we hope that's going to be the case. So basically, there are two different types of assistance that can be provided to assisted businesses. You can do a business finance loan, or you could do an infrastructure improvement loan. These are going to assist whether this is an existing business, it could be an expanding business, or it could be a new business coming into your community. And then also these can be combined, and you'll see the different types of activities shortly, but you can combine infrastructure along with your traditional business finance loans if you desire. Yeah, there we go. So let's talk about those business finance activities. So the things that you can do with business finance activities, and this is not an all-inclusive list, would be site development, construction of a facility or an addition, right? Renovation of an existing facility. You could help them purchase machinery or equipment that's needed for their business or their expansion, working capital, lease payments, inventory. And you notice I do have it divided out, as you can see, between Davis-Bacon and not Davis-Bacon. We just wanted to highlight that you can do some of these business finance activities without going through the added requirement of adhering to the Davis-Bacon, which is construction related, relating to prevailing wages for workers working on projects. And it brings with it some administration and possibly a project cost increase, though I'm not really seeing Davis-Bacon wages being a lot different than what's being paid out there on a daily basis. But we wanted to highlight that difference just to show that you can do things without getting into Davis-Bacon and some of the other things that come along with construction activities. Some examples. You could site develop the raw land to construct a new facility in your community, or you might have a facility that wants to be expand itself and has some adjacent land that you're going to site develop and put those horizontal utilities in and get things ready for them to be able to build. Or you could do the other side of that. You could assist with that vertical construction of that new facility that wants to come into your community. You could rehabilitate a building for an existing business to allow them to expand. Or you could assist a new business with the necessary machinery, equipment that they need to operate their business as they come into their community. So there's a wide variety of things that can be done with this financing, and those are just a few examples that came off the top of my head. So let's talk about it. As we said, these are loan products. So what are the terms that are related to the business finance? So the interest rates vary, and you're going to see that I have it divided out between this concept of non-retail, non-local, and then retail local service. I will explain that on the next slide, but just understand that the non-retail, non-local has the more preferential terms to it. So the interest rate charged on a loan to a non-retail, non-local business would be 3% below prime rate. I checked this morning, I think it's still at 8.5% for prime. So that would put a loan down at 5.5%. And there's always a minimum of 3.5% with our products. For the retail local service, that interest rate would be prime, whatever it is at the time of the loan, again, with that minimum of 3.5%. The term of those loans does vary depending on the type of assistance that you provide. So if it's just a financial kind of a thing and you're just dealing with money, working capital type things, you're looking at a 5-year term. You get into a little bit more tangible machinery equipment up to 10. And if you're building something or buying land or doing anything along those lines, we're looking at 15. Previous slide, I told you we could combine activities, right? So you may have multiple activities in there and the term will be kind of averaged out depending on what you do, but in no case will it be more than 15 years. So let's define these that I explained. The non-retail, non-local service is pretty much your bigger businesses that aren't providing local services to your community, right? And manufacturing, processing, or assembly plants, warehouses or distribution centers, ag operations, call centers, data processing, all those type of things. Again, not an all-inclusive list, but those are the type of businesses that get the favorable treatment under this program. And the other type is going to be your retail local service. And like to the opposite of that, they do provide those goods and services to your community. A couple examples include maybe a pharmacy, a mailbox store, grocery store, veterinarian, farm implement store, hardware store, whatever the case may be. However, if you're going to assist a local service type business, because we're using federal funds to assist a for-profit business, the grantee, which would be that city or county, needs to certify that that business they're assisting has no direct competition in the community, right? We don't want CDBG money to come in and assist one grocery store while another one's over there not being assisted. It just isn't a good look. So we need to make sure that it's a unique service or there is not direct competition to be eligible to be able to do that type of a business.
And let me jump in. I know we have a lot of slides and Tim's providing a lot of good information, but if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or drop something in the chat. Or if anyone has a business that's coming to mind that might be in their community and you want to ask a question about it, please, this is a good time. So,
yep. Got no problems with being interrupted. So, yeah. All right, so the other part of it, we talked about our business finance activities, and now we also talk, the other possibility is an infrastructure improvement type of activities. And that's where we're going to enhance or construct new utilities that'll enable a business to create or retain permanent jobs, either through expansion or coming into the community. The infrastructure type things, they're pretty common type stuff, water, sewer lines, streets, sidewalks, electrical, gas lines, those type of things. The one thing that is a CDBG rule is that these improvements must be owned by either the public entity, that city or county, a regulating utility or a common carrier, right? And I would think most of the things on that list would be owned by those folks anyway, but that's a good thing that we need to do. We got a question. What if one grocery store is a grocery store and the competition are Walmart or Dollar General? That is a good question. I think we're going to have to take those kind of situations on a case-by-case basis, just to see, because a restaurant would be the other kind of example there, right? Well, we have a pizza joint, but we don't have a Mexican, so, how do we figure those things out? So I think the key word is going to be direct competition. And I would think a local grocery store, to answer your specific question, would not be comparable to a Walmart. Maybe a Dollar General would probably be more up the alley. So we could talk about that. If you have something specific, please reach out to me and we can discuss that one-on-one. Another question came in. Do these same eligibility criteria apply to CDBG funds from previous years? Yeah, I want to say yes, primarily. I don't know that I really changed a lot. I wasn't here in 2018, 19 or 20 or 21 for that matter. So I can't speak to that for sure, but I don't think the program's changed a whole heck of a lot.
But I would say if you're applying for a 2024 grant in any of our programs, read the new guidelines. There have been changes, minor changes, well, the big changes in some guidelines and small changes in other guidelines. So read the new guidelines for the new eligibility requirements. But mostly the same, yes.
Great. All right,
There we go.
All right. Some examples here for this one, for installing some infrastructure improvements would be installing a new road for access to a new business that's coming into your community. It's raw land. They don't have any way to get back to it. So you could add that public road into that. We actually had a situation where we talked to some folks that were wanting to insert a new business that's kind of out in the rural area, and they needed to have a water line and then proper pressure and flow. So we could, and let's say they're 2 or 3 miles away from the nearest water main line, we could run that water extension line from the main out to that new business as an eligible activity. You could enlarge an existing parking lot to accommodate maybe a new shift being added to an existing business in your community. Or you could maybe upsize your water and sewer lines to support a business that wants to increase its production. Again, however that infrastructure can assist that business that allows them to create or retain jobs is what we're after. So again, this is also a loan. So what are our terms? So again, I have it divided between the non-retail and the retail. Again, non-retail with the favorable terms. So if you do a non-retail non-local service business, you would only have to pay back 25% of the cost. And that's going to be paid back over 10 years at 0% interest. So those are very, very favorable terms. For a retail local service type business that you assist, they would have to pay back 50% of the cost, again, over the 10 years at 0% interest. And this isn't your typical loan product like the business finance is going to be. This payback mechanism is going to be through a special assessment on that subject property. The city or county will put an assessment on there. It'll get paid back over those 10 years and remit back to the state until it's fully paid off. So that's a good term. That's really nice. There's some caveats that come with that. We'll talk about that in a minute. So what can't you do with these funds, right? We gave you a lot of options of things you can do. For all of our CDBG funds, you can assist buildings of general conduct of government. The operating and maintenance costs involved with the infrastructure improvements that may be installed under this grant, those costs need to be taken on by the regulating utility or the participating, the city or the county that's there. This grant will not pay for those type of things. For the businesses that we assist, we do not want to do bailouts or service or refinance existing debt. We don't want to take them out of a hole. We want to give them a leg up to either expand or entice them to come into our community. And the last thing is going to be the idea of job piracy. So that's relocating a business from one area of the state to another, or maybe from another state to Kansas. There are state job piracy rules and federal job piracy rules. I'm not going to go into detail. They are in the guidelines. Just ensure that if you do have a project that's moving, that you ensure yourself don't meet that definition of job piracy, because it would be then ineligible to do. All right, click me again, Andrew. All right, so national objectives, right? We have to meet the national objective of benefiting low and moderate income persons' jobs, right? So that means we must create or retain jobs, 51% of them or more held by low and moderate.
An accident. Go back.
There we go. 51% of them held by LMI persons. The assisted business will have 24 months to either create or get their business to the point where they can retain the number of jobs they contracted with you or with the city or the county or the grantee. And if, let's say we said we're going to do 20 jobs, but we only ended up doing 15 jobs, we will look for a repayment on a proportional basis on those that you did versus those that you didn't, is kind of what that last bullet's saying there. Hopefully we don't find ourselves in that situation. So let's get a little bit into the weeds. We talked about job creation and job retention. What does that mean? So jobs created, those jobs don't exist now, and they're going to be new jobs. The income determination that you need to do for the employee that's going to get hired into that job is done on pre-employment income, not the wage of the job. So the job may be paying $15, $16, $20 an hour But their pre-employment for the employee that's qualified and applies will be based on whatever they made for that past year annualized to be able to compare that to family size and incomes that we talked about early on. The other thing that I need to make sure that you're aware of, and this is for jobs created and retained, is that the income limits are going to be for the county in which that employee lives, not where that business is located. They could certainly be from a different county, and there are different income limits for different counties. So you want to make sure you work it for where the employee lives. And those jobs that are created must be either held by LMI persons or made available to LMI persons. It just gives you a little out on that. I can get into that, or we can talk about that one-on-one. Ideally, we want it to be held by persons, but sometimes there are turnovers and other things that come into play. So we have to at least make it available. So the other flip side of that is going to be our retained jobs, right? So these are jobs that are existing in the assisted business. They're at jeopardy of being lost. I'm kind of getting to the last bullet first there. So we are going to do the income determination based on the wage being paid at that assisted business, right? They have the job, whatever they're making for that job is what we're going to use to be able to qualify them as LMI or not. Again, based on family size and income in the county in which they live. And for the retention, CDBG rules require that the employer actually in writing notifies those folks that jobs are in jeopardy of being lost prior to assistance being provided. So you just kind of let them know that, hey, your job's in jeopardy, but we are applying for this CDBG funds. And if we get that, that should be able to save your jobs. Requirements is imposed on us by CDBG. We don't really have flexibility on that one. All right. Infrastructure determinations, we still have all the other things that we talked about, jobs retained and all that good stuff. LMI percentages are all still there. But for infrastructure improvement projects only, there's kind of another additional determination that needs to be made on calculating your determining your national objective, right? So if the cost of infrastructure improvements is less than $10,000 per job created or retained, then that national objective is just like we planned it, right? The job that the business we are assisting, we're counting the businesses that the jobs they retained or created from that business only. Pretty simple, straightforward. However, if the cost of infrastructure improvement is more than $10,000 per job retained or created, then the national objective determination is by aggregating all jobs created, retained by all businesses that benefit from that infrastructure improvement, including residential units. We won't get into that. The logical or the good example that I can give to kind of explain that is that back to that water line. Let's say we extended a water line to a new business for 3 miles out in a rural area. And along that water line, there are several other businesses or homes or whatever that could tap into that water main. They are receiving a benefit. So that benefit we want to capture if they created or retain any jobs as a result of that. It just adds a little bit of more, administration, and it also forces you to kind of be involved in businesses that weren't subject to your application to begin with. So that's one of the things you need to be aware of when you're looking at infrastructure projects. And it has killed a project that I talked with before, so I just want you to be aware of that. So going back to the business finance, there are a couple perks that are being offered by the state that I think are very interesting. First, it's an 18-month principal payment moratorium. So you'll get your loan and you'll go through, you'll do your assistance and you'll execute your loan. So for the first year and a half, you don't have to make any principal payments. However, you do need to make the interest payments on the loan during that period of time. And then we will extend our loan by that year and a half term at the end. But it allows you, as you're just getting started up with your new work, to not have to do those principal payments. So that's something there I think is a positive thing. The more enticing thing is probably that second bullet. That is if that project's completed within the 24 months, there are no issues, there are no setbacks, change orders, anything bad going on. But we will allow a 25% principal forgiveness on that loan. So you would only be paying back 75% of the money that you actually borrow, or the business would only be paying back 75% of what they borrow. Okay. So those are nice perks. Let's get a little bit into the application. One thing that we did change is we did extend the application review period from 45 to 60 days on our on our economic development. This also includes our environmental review. We want that full environmental review turned in with soon thereafter the application before we fund it. The application packet is an online application through Submittable, and it has a bunch of forms on there and a bunch of information that we want to try to vet these businesses. Along with that city or county, they have a responsibility or an obligation to try to make sure they're doing a good loan. But we ask for a lot of information to look at that also. And then no funds can be expended prior to environmental clearance. So that's always a concern and always an issue. Let me go back on that one, actually. Let me talk about the environmental review, particularly on these these economic development projects. You know, sometimes they're such large projects that CDBG comes in and is only doing a really small portion of that project. And we might only be installing a road or doing something like that, or only improving one building or something, and there's going to be multiple buildings developed. Because we have federal funds involved in that project, the environmental review needs to be for the entire project, for that non-CDBG funded project also, not just our little bit that we're doing. It has to be the entire project. We want to understand what environmental impacts are going to be happening by a project that we have some money in. We want to have a full look at it. So it is the entire project. That shouldn't be news to you guys, but I just wanted to highlight that a little bit. Okay, so just briefly, I'm not going to get into great detail here, but what kind of information are we looking for from this assisted business? We're looking for historical financials. We're looking for projected financials, accounts receivable, accounts payables. We really want to know what's going on with their existing and proposed obligations or debts, right? To help us understand their cash flow. Again.
Yeah, we got a question.
Okay, let me ask the question. So does that mean they have to pay for the environmental review before they get the grant? Yes, they do. And that's pretty much true across the board. Environmental reviews are always a local side requirement. So yes, they do need to do that, and they need to do that, particularly with these bigger construction ones. We need it ahead of time. All right, so the rest of the data is, and no, it does not count as match. Does that count as any part of a match? No, it does not.
Good question.
Good questions. Thank you for that, Rachel. All right, so back to the data for the applications. The one thing I want to highlight a little bit here, because it does cause heartburn sometimes, is that if you have a structure of your business that is such that owners have a 20% or greater stake in the business, we want to drill down and actually look at their personal information. So we would require them to provide a personal financial statement, and we would require them to give us written permission for a credit check. So that's only for owners that have 20% or greater stake in the business. If it's a corporation or an LLC that doesn't have those percentages, that's not the situation. We're only looking at business information at that point in time. We do want to see a business plan and resumes of the key employees of the business. We were going to want to see a commitment letter from the assisted business, what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, how many employees we're going to retain or gain, or whatever the issues are. And then we also want to have letters from the banks or other lenders to know that the other money that's out there is real money and not just a wish. All right. Briefly, I want to just touch on the federal regulations, the environmental review process. I thought I had another spot to talk about it. That's where I was going to talk about it. So we already talked about that. Construction does bring in Davis-Bacon. It also brings in Section 3, which talks about, trying to get employment opportunities for folks in the community where the projects are located. And there might be some other requirements to get brought in with construction. If a acquisition of land, no matter who pays for that, is part of the project, whether it's CDBG funded or not, because we're part of the financing, Uniform Relocation Act would apply to the transaction. We would need to make sure that's a arm's length transaction, that eminent domain wasn't taken on, and everything was done appropriate. And although I doubt it, if there was any displacement or anything like that with people, we would have some opportunity to deal with that through the URA also. And then lastly, 2 CFR 200 is our administrative guidelines that we look for of all of our federal grants. And I wanted just to highlight the fact that it includes procurement rules. That's going to probably be the other big rule that would need to be adhered to. Is just making sure that your, procurement of services, professional services, of construction, all that needs to go through certain procurement rules. So I just want to be aware that that's out there. So we do have to do kind of a public benefit test that HUD provides. And this is some of the evaluations, some of the questions, or some of the things that we look at. They're pretty common sense type of things. We're looking to make sure that the project costs are reasonable. We want to make sure that the committed non-federal funds are there, like we talked just a slide before. We don't want to supplant, the local non-federal funds by putting CDBG money in there. So we don't want to invest 750. So then the business can say, oh, I can take out some money on our side. We don't want to see that. We don't want to supplant money. We want to make sure that all these activities are financially feasible, that they'll produce a profit. We want this business to be successful and make loan payments, right? And then we want to make sure that the activities do not provide more than a reasonable rate of return on investment to the owner. Obviously, we are about improving return on investment and so on. It's just a kind of a HUD thing that they haven't really defined reasonable rate of return either. So we can talk about that if you have any concerns about that. And then lastly, kind of like what we do with all of our grants, we want to ensure that the CDBG money is kind of dispersed at a prorated basis with the non-CDBG money. We don't want our money spent first type of things and have to wait for others to come through. All right, so what's the city and county, if they choose to go down this path, what's going on here? Well, first and foremost, obviously, they're going to be serving as the applicant, and if successfully awarded, they would become the grantee. They would be responsible for all adherence to federal requirements and so on. So there's a lot to it. There's other key players in there, but they're ultimately responsible. That city or county would have to conduct some public hearings, primarily before the application, and then there's one after. They would need to, and I would strongly encourage them to hire an experienced grant administrator. Again, I told you it's been 2019 since we've had an application. So there's probably not many administrators out there that have recent experience, but this is a very complicated program and not like others. And I would encourage you to kind of vet your grant administrators and make sure they know what they're doing there. The responsibility of the grantee is also going to be collect those loan payments from that assisted business and remit that back to the state. You want to secure collateral, right? So you should be getting some sort of collateral for the loan that you're making, whether, UCC filings or whatever the case may be. We want to get that secured, lien documents, whatever you got to do there. I do want to make sure that the city and county knows they are not the guarantors of this loan. They do not have to pay the state or CDBG back if this business loan fails, right? This is a risky business. We know this. However, if it does fail, you do have the obligation to try to undertake some recovery actions, try to get some of that money back from that assisted business as best as you can. If it gets ugly and complicated, the state might become involved there too. But we do want to make our good due diligent efforts to try to get our money back as best as we can. So what does that, Andrew Craig, there we go. So what does that assisted business need to do? They need to spend their CDBG dollars and their match non-federal dollars as budgeted, hopefully within budget, without many change orders, and on time is what we would like to see. That business needs to document the job creation and or job retention and the attainment of at least 51% LMI, right? That's pretty much a staple. And then they need to make those loan payments back to the grantee, the city or county, on a timely basis. I'm going to skip right through these last two. It talks about administrative costs and public hearings. And I know my audience that I have here just doesn't need to hear about that. But that's my contact information. If you don't already have it, I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you had. I tried to not go too fast, but I didn't want to belabor things that you guys already knew. So on share.
Does anyone have any questions?
Put a new one down there. See a red box.
Got it. Okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me go back then. Thank you. Appreciate that. I will happy to do that. Should be the next to last. Perfect. All right. So public hearings. So the notice is, so basically the purpose of this is to ensure this is HUD money. So we want to ensure the public is aware of what's going on with their funding. So you need to hold the city or county that's applying needs to hold a public hearing at their city or county commission meeting. That you need to publish an ad in your local newspaper, having general circulation in your community to make sure folks are aware of it. And then during that ad must contain obviously the date, time, and location of that public hearing, a detailed project description so that the folks that are reading it know what's going on and can form questions or understand whether they want to make comments, the exact location, and the amount of CDBG money asked for, and the total project cost. So they really have a good understanding what the projects are. They can come comment on it. They can make suggestions to the city or county before they submit it to the state. So it's a requirement. And then lastly, if you are lucky enough to be funded and you go through the process, there is a public hearing at the end of it after you close out your project. And that's just an opportunity again for the citizens. Same process. ad in the newspaper, location, all that good stuff. And that just talks about how the project actually performed. We were supposed to create 10, 15 jobs. We actually created 18 jobs, or whatever the situation would be. You're just going to kind of report back out to the community what needs to be done with that. So that's pretty much it on the public hearings. There are timeframes that are going to be found in the guidelines about when you post your notice and all that good stuff that you're going to want to follow. But the gist of why you do it is I did cover there. So hopefully that takes care of your question. Good question. I certainly, we certainly can make these slides available. I don't know how you want to do that, Andrew.
Yeah, yes, the slides. We can send the slides out to anyone who's on the registration email list. So yes, we can do that. The recording will be available on the CDBG website. If I get that recording process fast enough, I could send it out in the email as well. But our third Thursday recordings are always going to be available on our website a couple days later. So, but if I can, I will email that out as well.
You know, this is a complicated program, like I said earlier. And one of the requirements that really I didn't put in the PowerPoint is that you know, if you're looking to apply, you need to kind of give the Department of Commerce a 10-day notice of the application. And it really shouldn't be a surprise to me that it's coming in. Usually these things are developing over a lot of time and conversations are being had. So I encourage you to reach out to us at any time that you have anybody that's interested. I'd be happy to talk to them one-on-one or just talk with you guys, whatever we need. So I just want to make sure that you're aware of that this is complicated. I know I went through the PowerPoint rather quickly. And if you look at the guidelines, there's a lot of pages to it because there's a lot going on with this program, but I'm here to help you make sure that we can have a successful program.
And just so everyone knows, I mean, this program was available last year. We just didn't promote it very much. Tim and I probably had 10 phone calls with interested parties across the state over the last year. And we had one application come in. So we actually have one pending. But it's something that's a priority of the current administration. We've allotted $2 million for this program this year. We actually have more economic development money that needs to be spent in a similar manner. We can't grant it. We have to loan it, just like it's called program income, like this economic development money. But we actually have more than 2 million if we can generate some, I guess, progress or process getting these grants out. It's just been a few years since we've had really a functioning economic development program. And with your help getting the word out to communities, potential businesses who are interested, hopefully we can make this program have an impact in every region across the state. So with that,
I have one more thing.
Oh yeah, Tim.
So you'll hear about it if you happen to come to our road shows, which I hope you do. But this is one of those programs. I know a lot of times when we talk CDBG, everybody talks about LMI for the community. Well, my community doesn't qualify because our LMI is 60% or whatever. Well, economic development has nothing to do with LMI of the community. It all has to do with the job, the business that you're assisting and creating those jobs. So every single community except those entitlement communities is eligible to apply for this funding. So I just wanted to drive that home.
Yeah. And again, we'll be talking about this at road shows as well. So if you see us out at road shows, you have a project idea, let us know and let's talk about it. Are there any other questions? Any thoughts, concerns? It doesn't have to be related to Ed while we're here.
Right.
Okay.
Everybody's going to spend all that money. We'd be happy to do an amendment to put some more money into this program. So
yeah, absolutely.
Spend it away, please.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And yeah, just one more reminder, please check out the new CDBG website immediately after this. It's updated, it's ready, the guidelines are updated. If you see any issues or inconsistencies, though, please let us know because it's our soft launch here. So, okay. Thanks for joining us, Tim. Thank you. Great job. Everyone, I'll send out the slides and the recording and have a great day. Thank you.